Romans 14, verse 11, backtracks just for some context. And it says in Romans 14, verse 11, it says, "For it is written, as I live, saith the Lord, every knee shall bow to me, and every tongue shall confess to God. So then every one of us shall give account of himself to God. Let us not therefore judge one another anymore, but judge this rather, that no man put a stumbling block or an occasion to fall in his brother's way. I know and am persuaded by the Lord Jesus that there is nothing unclean of itself. To him that esteemeth anything to be unclean, to him that is unclean. But if thy brother be grieved with thy meat, now walkest thou not charitably, so destroy not him with thy meat, for whom Christ died. Let not then your good be evil spoken of. For the kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Ghost." And what I want to focus on here is if we take a look at Romans chapter 14, verse 13, where it says, "Let us not therefore judge one another anymore, but judge this rather, that no man put a stumbling block or an occasion to fall in his brother's way." So as Christians, something we should do is we don't want to put a stumbling block in front of someone else, meaning something that would say cause them to sin. I think about some of the ways some ladies dress. Some Christian ladies dress. I mean, when they're dressing provocatively, when they're dressing in such a way that men really don't want to look at that. I mean, there's a case where someone could worse than being naked is wearing really tight clothing, that kind of stuff. That's worse because you see someone who might be naked, you want to look away. But if you see someone with tight clothing, I mean, you can't really look away. You don't want to put, as Christians, we don't want to put a stumbling block in front of other Christians. We won't want to do something that would possibly cause them to sin. Now, continue on here. It says, what I want to look at is if you can turn in your Bibles to 1 Corinthians chapter 8. 1 Corinthians chapter 8. 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 4. 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 4. And this, if we take a look at 1 Corinthians chapter 8, there's a lot of stuff in 1 Corinthians chapter 8 that kind of matches up with Romans 14. So we're going to go over a number of these verses here in 1 Corinthians chapter 8, because there's really a lot of cross-reference that we can see. And it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 4, it says, "As concerning therefore eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and there is none other God but one. But though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there are gods many and lords many, but to us there is but one God, the Father of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord Jesus Christ, by whom are all things, and we by him." So what it's saying here that there's one God. There's only one God, and that's Jesus Christ. That's the Lord God Almighty. There's other people who have other gods that people call Allah God. There's people who call, they have, the Muslim, Buddhists, they have these statues. They say those things are God. There's people who call Krishna God, but there's one God. We know there's only one God. So, but it says here in 1 Corinthians 8, verse 7, it says, "Howbeit there is not in every man that knowledge. For some with conscience of an idol unto this hour eat it as a thing offered unto an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. But meat commendeth us not to God, for neither if we eat are we better, neither if we eat not are we made worse." Now, from what I understand at the time, I know this is not really something that's as really applicable today as it was back then, but from what I understand at the time, back when this was being written, it was pretty common for meat sold in the marketplace to be consecrated as sacrifice to false gods. So there was meat that was sold, and it was consecrated unto another god, unto a false god. Because as we know, there's one God. There's only the Lord God, like Jesus Christ. There's only one God. But there was meat at the time that was sacrificed to other gods, and they sold that in the marketplace. And this was creating a lot of confusion of how do we deal with this? I mean, we need to eat. Is it okay to eat that? How do we deal with this situation? And that was something that was kind of going on then. I don't think necessarily that's really kind of going on today. In some senses, it could be going on. Now, what it's saying though, in verse 8 it says, meat commendeth us not to God, for neither if we eat are we better, neither if we eat not are we made worse. But it says, so it's basically saying that if you take a look at Acts chapter 10, verse 15, and you don't have to go there, it says, and the voice spake unto him again the second time, what God had cleansed, that call thou uncommon. And 1 Timothy 4:4 says, for every creature of God is good, and nothing to be refused, if it be received with thanksgiving. So saying that we can literally, we can eat anything if it's received with thanksgiving. It doesn't matter what it is. And every creature of God is good. As basically saying, even in this case, when we look at what was going on there, if there was something that was sacrificed to another God, and there was no other Christians around, and you needed to eat, there would be nothing wrong with eating that, as long as you gave thanks to it. But it brought in a confusion because we had it, if we continue on in verse 10, in 1 Corinthians 8, verse 10, it says, for if any man see thee which hath knowledge sit at meat in an idol's temple, shall not the conscience of him which is weak be emboldened to eat those things which are offered unto idols? And through thy knowledge shall thy weak brother perish, for whom Christ died. But when you sin so against the brethren, and wound their weak conscience, you sin against Christ. Wherefore, if meat made my brother to offend, I will eat no flesh, while the world standeth, lest I make thy brother to offend. So I believe it was taking back to a situation that at this Bible time that they're saying, well, what if you were in an idol's temple as a saved Christian, and someone else, there was other saved Christians there, new Christians perhaps, and that they see you eat something that was sacrificed unto an idol. He's saying some other Christians who just got saved, they might see that idol as they might not realize that idol is just a dumb statue. Anyone who worships a statue, anyone who prays before a statue and gives that statue reverence or glory or honor, that's like giving them, in a sense, divine power, and that's just a statue, that's just a dumb idol. But there might be some Christians who just got saved and they might not really quite understand that. Or they haven't quite got it, they're not at that level of growth. He's saying, hey, look, if you're in a temple of an idol and you ate something that was sacrificed to an idol, you might have given thanks to it. You might have prayed for it. Realize I need to eat. He's saying, but if you do that, and there's another Christian there who doesn't realize that this is just an idol, or having stumbling with this, hey, they're going to be stumbled by that. They're going to be stumbled by that. Now, not only that, but you have to look at you as a Christian among other people who might be sacrificing to those idols. Do you really want to eat that and almost sanction what they're doing? Absolutely not, right? You don't want to sanction and say, yeah, this is, hey, we're all, let's say, does somebody know what halal is? Yeah. I mean, what is it, Mike? What exactly is it?
It's like, it's more the Muslim thing, I don't know, it's like, the last one.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like some type of way they do it. Yeah. Now, as a Christian, in most contexts, I can think this is, what if someone says, hey, this food was sacrificed to Allah? Hey, would you eat that? No, you wouldn't want to eat that. Now, if this food was sacrificed to Allah, and let's say you're really hungry, there's no one else around, no one knows you're eating, if you pray and give thanks for it, is that fine? It's fine. Because it says, just like it says in Acts, it says, our first Titus, Titus 4:4 says, for every creature God is good and nothing be received, for every creature God is good and nothing to be refused, it could be received with thanksgiving. So there's nothing in a sense wrong with that. If nothing is to be refused, if we receive with thanksgiving, we can pray for that. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that because we don't want to see someone else. We don't want to see someone else, another Christian, another weak Christian, see that. And then if they see you eating it and they don't realize that, and they eat it, they're sinning. It says in Romans chapter, at the end of the verse, Romans 14, verse 23, it says, and he that doubteth is damned if he eat, because he eateth not in faith, but whatsoever is not in faith is sin. So if we do something, even though it might not be wrong, if we don't have faith, if we feel wrong about doing that thing, it might not even be wrong according to the Bible. that's still sin because we're still going against our conscience. We're still doing something that we think is wrong, and we're going about and doing that. So that's something that we don't want to do. That the thing is, something that Timothy said, something that Paul had said in 1 Corinthians 9:22, he says, "To the weak I became weak, that I might gain the weak. I have made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some." And Paul is saying, to the weak I became weak. And I know I gave this example, this story before with the pastor of my church, Toronto Baptist Church, when I was a vegan, and I had just gotten saved, and he had me over to his house, and what he did was he made like a vegetarian meal. And what he really did, he really got this, understood this. And by him doing that, I felt comfortable. And I also kind of realized, you know what? When he preached the next time that there's nothing wrong with eating anything, I was like, you're right. But him, that example that showed, the fact that he went out of his way, as Paul said, to the weak I became weak, that I might gain the weak. I made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. So when it says, in the beginning of Romans 14, it says, him that is weak in the faith, receive ye, but not the death for disputations. If one believeth that he may eat all things, and another was weak, eateth herbs. So the person who just eats herbs is weak. Unless for some reason they really are convinced of that diet. But if they're doing it because they think, I need to save the animals, the poor cows and the poor chickens, and we can't, that's their food, God said their food. And if that food's there and it's going to give you strength, you can eat it. God clearly makes that. Does not God not make that clear in the Bible? That every creature of God is good and nothing will be refused if it be received with thanksgiving, and we can eat that. So let's make ourselves strong with the food that we need to eat. But some people, they might not get that. So if someone's a new Christian, you'll give them a little bit of leeway and you'll bear along with them until they can learn that. Now, as we continue on here, as I was saying, this basically, if you look at 1 Corinthians chapter 8 and you compare it to Romans 14, you see a lot of correlations. And as it says in Romans, just to kind of go over some of this, Romans 14:14 says, and I know and I'm persuaded by the Lord Jesus that there is nothing unclean of itself, but to him that esteemeth anything to be unclean, to him it is unclean. But if thou otherwise grieve with thy meat, thou walkest now not charitably, just swear on him with thy meat, for whom Christ died. So let's not, the things we do, let's not let that destroy. If someone is going to be offended by what you do, and it might not be wrong according to the Bible, they go into the way and not do that thing. Something, the Muslims, they actually really respect the Bible. They wouldn't want you to put the Bible, on the ground or something like that, or between your feet, or something. Some people, I had someone say that, I put the Bible maybe it's not the right thing, I put it kind of on the floor. I had nowhere else to put it, and they got offended by that. So we got to watch what we do. We got to watch how we conduct ourselves and make sure that we don't offend other people. And it says in Romans 14:16, let not them be good, be evil spoken of. The kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace and joy of the Holy Ghost. And if you turn your Bibles to we continue on in verse 13. Verse 16. So verse 17. If you turn your Bibles to Romans chapter 8, verse 6, rather. Romans chapter 8, verse 6. It says Romans 8, verse 6. Now, if we compare this to Romans 14:17, Romans 14:17, it says, "For the kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Ghost." Romans 8, verse 6, it says, "For the carnally minded is death, but the spiritually minded is life and peace." So, the kingdom of God is not meat and drink. What we eat, the things we eat, that's not really what the kingdom of God is. The kingdom of God is, it's spiritual. For the carnally minded is death, but the spiritually minded is life and peace. The things that are really important to our relationship with God. The things that are really important is our Bible reading. Things that are really important is our prayer. It's not necessarily what we put into our body food-wise, but our spiritual relationship. That for the kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Ghost. So those are the things we ought to focus on. It's not what we eat that really matters, but it's what our spiritual relationship with God, or as we walk in the Spirit. And Romans 14:18, it says, for he that in these things serveth Christ is acceptable to God and approved of men. And if you turn your Bibles to 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 12. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 12. And it says, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles, that whereas they speak against you as evildoers, that they may by your good works which they shall behold glorify God and the day of visitation. And it says, as it says in Romans 14:18, always try to keep a benchmark in the chapter we're in, just to make it easier, where it says, for he that in these things serveth Christ is acceptable to God and approved of men. So we ought to look at our conduct, how we're behaving. That's what's really important. That's what it all comes down to, with how people see us and why act like Christians. Romans 14, verse 19. It says, let us therefore follow after the things which make for peace, and things wherewith one may edify another. For meat destroy not the word of God. All things indeed are pure, but it is evil for that man who eateth with offense. And if you turn your Bibles to Psalm chapter 34, Psalm chapter 34, you look at verse 14. It says, depart from evil and do good, seek peace and pursue it. So that's the thing we got to look at. Going after peace, wanting to have peace with all men. Looking at our conduct, looking at how other people perceive the things that we're doing. We don't want other people to feel uncomfortable by our behavior. We want to think about what makes them comfortable. Think of other cultures, right? There's a lot of different cultures in the world. And we got to understand those cultures. We got to understand other people's cultures. And we got to behave ourselves, conduct ourselves in such a Christian way that we're not offending other people. Because it says, let us therefore follow after the things which make for peace and things wherewith one may edify another. And that's what we want to look at Christians. We want to edify one another. We want to strengthen one another, and we want to seek to do that. That should be our primary focus. Hebrews 12, verse 14. If you go to Hebrews chapter 12, verse 14. And it says in Hebrews 12:14, it says, follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. So that's something that we just kind of get in our minds, right? Just to think about having peace with other people. Think about having peace with people at work that might drive us crazy. Brother Gordon probably has some clients that probably drive him crazy. We want to have peace with those people, right? We want to follow out peace, with whatever we can do to make things better. Sometimes we just got to turn the other cheek. Sometimes we got to just look the other way. I mean, God has looked the other way on a lot of things that we've done. He's forgiven us for a lot of things. We've got to follow after the things which made for peace and things wherewith one may edify another. And as we continue on in Romans chapter 14, verse 20, it says, for meat destroy not the work of God. All things are indeed are pure, but it is evil for that man who eateth with offense. And it says, it is good neither to eat flesh, nor to drink wine, nor anything whereby thy brother stumbleth, or is offended, or is made weak. So of course, all things indeed are pure, but we don't want to eat those things. We wouldn't want to eat something as it was in the Old Testament, and back in these days where there was things sacrificed on the idols commonly, and they were for sale. We wouldn't want to eat something that's going to make our brother offend and stubborn about it. So anything we can do to a weaker brother or sister, that we can try to do that wouldn't stumble them, we want to focus on doing those things. And we'll close off on that note. Dear Lord God, thank you so much for this opportunity, God.